guys, how's it going? Always part of the process, I think, to make sure that I am actually live. So we have success. Wonderful. I realized I wanted to also share a post, and it seems that because I'm going live on multiple platforms, I can't share it with anybody that's coming through from LinkedIn. So apologies for that. What it is that you're all here now for episode 4 of FemGineer Chats, but all of the past episodes are recorded. And hi, Mohan, how's it going? All the past episodes are recorded and they're on my YouTube channel. So for those on LinkedIn, I will post it separately, just a link to my YouTube channel, so you can always catch the recorded past episodes. But today we're here for episode 7. We are talking about businesses that are reaching carbon neutrality and how to do it. It's something that's being talked about obviously a lot more frequently now, with a lot of the global nations, making it a really important part of their nation set points and the goals that they want to reach. And often in the conversations that I'm having with potential clients and existing clients is they're wanting to reach one of two things: either zero waste to landfill or carbon neutrality in their operations. And so I think one of the first things we want to sort of understand is what's the difference between net zero or being carbon neutral versus zero emissions or being zero carbon. So being net zero or carbon neutral is the same thing. Which is essentially, if I was to use an analogy, if you had a tap and you had water running into the tap, to maintain the volume in the tap, if you had a leakage, you would have to have the same amount of water flowing in and the same amount of water flowing out through the leak, so that you maintain the amount of water in the sink. So therefore, you become net zero in your volume that's being put in and the volume being taken out, which is the same as the same as carbon neutral, which is that any emissions that are being released from your operations or in your supply chain is the same amount of emissions that you're offsetting through implementation of efficiency projects or buying carbon offsets or installing renewable or alternative energy supplies for your operations. So that's what carbon neutral or net zero is about. But don't get that mixed up with being zero emissions or zero carbon, because that's actually referring to no emissions being produced in the first place. And that's actually quite a progressive goal and not always achievable as well for certain types of business operations. But it's really good to understand the difference between the two things. So going carbon neutral, that's what we're here to talk about. Look, it's easy enough to go ahead and install some solar or purchase offsets from your energy provider or go onto a green plan for your energy plan. So your retailer energy contract. I was trying to find the word. So, it's easy enough to go ahead and buy a green plan off your retailer, but that's not what you want to do if you want to truly go carbon neutral. It's actually just a superficial solution. So really what we want to do is go through a very particular steps of reaching carbon neutrality. And before I sort of go on, I do want to share my screen with you so that while we talk, we can see the process of going carbon neutral and what that entails. So give me one moment. Yes, great. So it seems that you can see all of that. So that's wonderful. And hopefully you can see me as well. So in order to go carbon neutral, there are a bunch of steps that we need to take. So the first thing that we want to do is actually scope out your emissions. And in order to scope out your emissions, you need to set business goals as well as a boundary. So your business might not be ready to look at your supply chain and your operations. So you might just look at your manufacturing operations, for example. So it's really important to set a goal and set a boundary that both align. And then what we can do with that is to measure and report, analyze the emissions that are currently being released through your business operations. And the reason that is really important is understanding the scope of your emissions across scope 1, 2, and 3 will help your business develop a carbon strategy. one that can relate your business objectives to where your business is currently emitting their emissions. Because it can be easy enough to say, let's stop emissions through our packaging process. But that might not necessarily align with your business growth strategy or where your business is currently looking to shift their packaging towards a particular type of recyclable package. So it might not be a useful strategy to align your packaging with carbon neutrality focus. So really it's about scoping out your emissions, really understanding where your emissions are coming from and where we need to focus for your business. And then what we want to do is actually establish an emissions baseline, because the baseline, it helps you understand a snapshot of where your business is at. So where your business emission profile is currently at across scope 1, 2, and 3. And then you can use that to forecast out the future trajectory of your emissions. So you can understand based on population changes, or if that's relevant to your business, or clientele changes, demographic changes, market changes, whatever it may be that actually affects your business operations and therefore your emissions profile. We can use the baseline to forecast out that trajectory of emissions. And that will then be used to essentially create a benchmark. Because the benchmark is really important here, because once you have an idea of where your emissions baseline is and your benchmark is, then you can use that in understanding the risk of climate change on your business operations and how you want to then start reporting your emissions moving forward. Say you were to commit to some sort of reporting scheme, or say the greenhouse gas protocol scheme, for example, or there may be a national scheme in your country that is relevant to your business. So you might want to know how we want to start reporting on those emissions moving forward. So that's where the baseline becomes really important. And then from that, once you have an idea of your baseline, you really want to start going, okay, well, where do I want to reduce emissions? What do I want to focus on? So we want to look at the mitigation and the adaptation strategies for your business on how you can reduce emissions in your operations or in your supply chain. Now, part of looking at mitigation opportunities, you really need to follow a hierarchy. It's well and good to say, okay, well, let's just put in variable flow drives on all our motors. But it's actually probably better to take a step back from that and really start at the basics, because you might actually find that you don't need to move to more expensive or time-consuming opportunities when you can actually take the lower hanging fruit off the list first. So following a hierarchy means, where can we reduce or avoid consumption in terms of energy or packaging or producing waste? So where do we reduce or avoid? Then where do we look at improving the efficiency in our operations? Then we'll look at integration opportunities. So how do we integrate our energy and resources back into operations, or provide that to another operator that might find our waste products useful in some instances. Then we'll look at substitution. So substituting our energy with renewable or alternative forms of energy. And finally, we look at offsetting. So that's usually by buying carbon offsets that support green projects, or support carbon sequestration projects. So you're not sure what carbon sequestration is, it's the process of actually bringing carbon, so extracting carbon out of the atmosphere and containing it. So there's various offsetting projects that we can support, but it's really important, as I said, to follow those 5 steps in the hierarchy in terms of mitigation opportunities. So the reason that this is a really important step is you start to understand, okay, what are the steps in the roadmap that my business can start to take? And where are the low cost or low hanging fruit opportunities? The ones that are much more easy to implement, say if cost is a factor for your business and your business is not ready to spend a lot of money, or they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to a particular set of actions. So you can start looking at the low cost opportunities that might leverage some savings, some cost savings, or might leverage some efficiency gains, so time savings in your business operations. And then that can then be used to go out and take action on the bigger opportunities. It might even mean leverage some funds or savings to support bringing somebody on board who can champion this movement moving forward. So it's really important here to understand that, to start to understand that roadmap and lay it out strategically so that you take on the low-hanging fruit opportunities first, or the ones that are best suited to your business at this point in time, and then go on to take bigger action. And what we then do is, for each of the opportunities, you want to understand what are the technical details behind them and what are the economic benefits of each opportunity. So you can carry out a technical and economic feasibility around them. And so you can really understand what are the return on investments as you go along this optimization roadmap, essentially. The next step is, well, kind of a two-pronged step. It's about accountability and verification. So let's go through accountability first. This is where I see a lot of businesses don't have a proper accountability matrix in place, and that can be to the detriment of their business's success when they're trying to achieve, whether it's carbon neutrality or no waste to landfill, whatever it is that they're really trying to achieve. They really need an accountability matrix, and what that is that their KPIs in their business is directly related to their leadership team and how their leadership team is rewarded or not rewarded. Because if their sustainability goals are not directly connected to the leadership team, and whether they receive their bonuses or not, can really determine how much this line of action is pushed through the business and, supported along the way. Because I can often see champions within the business who are trying to make it work can often be struggling on an uphill battle when they're trying to get projects over the line, or support in terms of getting a particular getting funding for a particular project or to implement a particular project. So accountability is really important. Directly aligning it to the leaders is probably a key part of this. Not to say that everybody else is not involved and a really important part of driving this, but the leaders are the ones that have that direct accountability for it, and they bring everybody along on that journey. So about part of that is a communication piece as well. And so we said accountability. So that's about accountability. The other part of this is verification. So, you can say, all right, well, we're going to achieve 20% energy reduction in the next 6 months. That's all well and good. But if you don't measure and actually verify these opportunities, then setting that goal and saying that, oh, well, we implemented the 20% reduction project, we should have achieved that, is not going to be enough. You really need to take a science-backed or engineering-backed tool that can help you measure and verify that you've actually achieved your energy savings or your water reduction or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in that project. And you can understand whether you achieved those goals or whether it fell short of reaching that goal. And then you can try to understand why it fell short, or why, if you achieved it, well, you don't usually want to know why. You're happy with the fact that you achieved it. But it's always good to understand it and have a real clear idea of what it is that it took your business to achieve those particular goals. So yeah, measurement and verification is probably the last part of that process to really sum it all up. But what you finally sort of help your business understand is that how you can embed these steps now, this optimization roadmap that you've developed, into your business framework of operation. Because a lot of businesses have business strategies and business frameworks, and usually they're aligned with business growth and success in terms of commercialization. But what we really need to do is now align the sustainability aligned goals, which in this case, we're talking about carbon neutrality. We need to align that with the business strategy of growth and success in the market. So once we align that, then you really have a good foundation to propel your business forward into the market that is very much aligned with sustainability. So some of the things that you might want to consider once you've reached this point is to then look at internally a price on the carbon. So setting a price on your carbon emissions is actually a really powerful thing to do, because what it allows your business and your people to understand is that the value of this carbon is actually going to cost your business if you don't start to look at it seriously and look at reducing your emissions seriously. And it also helps with setting decarbonization budgets and your mitigation strategy for your business. So it really puts a value on this natural asset that we've taken for granted, which is carbon emissions, and start to create some importance behind it by setting a price on it. And then once you've done that, you can look at some science-based initiatives that will allow your business to commit to something very actively. So if any of you have heard, there's a science-based target initiatives. What this is a organization that helps businesses more proactively and quickly take action, because they really give you the science-backed reality of where your business is at and where your business needs to be by a certain time frame. So if you haven't heard of it, it's really good to look up SBTI, the Science-Based Target Initiatives. It's an organization that is a collaboration between various well-renowned organizations that are really driving this space forward. So it allows you to have some backing behind the action that your business wants to take. And also not just backing, it gives you a more direct time frame for when your business really needs to act by. So you're not just going, oh, I have 20 years to act. Well, they might tell you, no, actually, you only have about 12 years to act. So it gives you some clarity behind your action plan. So look, I mean, that really takes you through the steps that your business might need to take when you're considering moving towards a carbon neutral operation. What I can say as being an Australian, I know that a lot more Australians are now wanting the businesses that they purchase from to be ethical and have more sustainable products and be more transparent about their emissions profile, for example, or the sustainability in their procurement and their packaging and so on. So emissions is a big part of that. And men and women are making more informed, aligned decisions towards sustainability. And that's not just in Australia, it's around the world. So people are definitely wanting more from their businesses. And so it's really just, time and an opportunity for your business to start considering how you might move towards a carbon neutral operation. And I hoped that was helpful. I mean, it's quite a few steps. It's a lot to kind of fit in the time frame that I usually sort of try to do this within. So hopefully you have found that helpful. I know that this particular slide that I'm sharing with you, it's from a case study of a client that I recently worked with. They're a food manufacturing company, and part of that was setting an emissions reduction roadmap for them. And so, what we found is by doing this in a stepwise process, and as you can see, there's circles in the steps that are highlighted. It's where I like to involve my clients along the way. Sometimes, I do encourage them to be involved in more steps than the ones that I've highlighted, but generally you really want to be involved with the consultant in setting your boundary and the goals and reviewing the optimization solution so that you can really provide feedback, because only you know your business best, not someone external to your business. And then finally, what is the final roadmap finalization? So, before you get your final report, you really want to say, okay, well, this is not going to work because we can't have accountability lined up to this particular leader. It's not going to work in terms of their role in the business and our goals as a business. So really important to be involved in as many steps as possible, but these key 3 steps is an important part for your business to be involved when you bring somebody on board to do this sort of work for you. And as I said, I hope this was helpful. And if your business is doing something in this space, I'd love to hear about it, because I know that some of the businesses I'm talking to are really trying to act in this space because they're getting a lot of pressure from their global supply chains. Europe in particular is really driving this down the line to their Australian counterparts and encouraging them to do more towards zero waste and carbon neutrality. And in fact, it's becoming a deciding factor in whether they continue to work with the Australian businesses or not. So obviously in some instances, they don't have much of a choice if they're wanting to get Australian-based products or input, but it is still a very big part of their decision making in working with Australian businesses. So really a great time to start thinking about this and start acting in this space and talk to somebody you trust about this and get onto that journey for your own business. So yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I'm so glad that you joined me today. Thank you to everybody who's joined live. And if you do miss this live, that's okay. There will be a recorded version on YouTube. I will share the YouTube channel with you all, and it has a playlist called FemGineer Chats where you can catch the previous episodes. Thank you so much, everybody. Have an amazing evening, morning, afternoon, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.